Hey there, folks. I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. Now, as you can tell from that little world logo, you can already tell what we're looking at today. But first, I need to give you guys a little bit of backstory. Now, although Carrie from 2013 was the very first Halloween-related blog that I ever made on my show, my very first Halloween marathon didn't officially begin until 2014, which was my second season. And while that year did begin and end pretty badly due to me getting my first surgery to get a giant cell tumor out of my left femur, and my Curse of Princess Ivy blog got falsely struck by copyright Nazis, it was still my favorite and most surprising Halloween marathon. You see, during that time, I blogged movies like Laika's The Box Trolls, A Monster in Paris, The Princess and the Goblin, Nickelodeon's The Boy Who Cried Werewolf, The Book of Life, Little Nemo Adventures in Slumberland, and A Nightmare on Elm Street from 2010. I also blogged Monsters University, but surprisingly, it originally was not part of my schedule. But because of my graduation from Saddleback College during that same year, I blogged MU anyway. But now, since it's Halloween, and after 6 years, and of course thanks to a generous request by my friend Adam Hogan, we're going to look at the very first movie taking place in Monstropolis. So, released on November 2nd, 2001, the movie is Monsters, Inc. Now, as we all know, the city of Monstropolis centers around the city's power company, Monsters, Inc. In the movie, James P. Sullivan, better known as Sully, and his wisecracking best friend, Mike Wazowski, discover what happens when the real human world interacts with theirs in the form of a 2-year-old little girl who accidentally sneaks into the monster world with Sully one night. And now, it's up to Sully and Mike to send Boo back into her door before anybody finds out. Not only from the CDA, but also from Sully's main rival, Randall Boggs, and the Monsters, Inc. chairman and CEO, Mr. WaterNews. So, what do I personally think of this movie? Well, to me, this was a really fun Pixar film, and like Coco, it really makes a good movie to watch during the Halloween season. But to further explain why I love this Pixar classic, let's move on to Mustang Notes. Now, Monsters, Inc. is the first Pixar movie directed by Pixar's current CEO, Pete Docter, who'd later direct Up, Inside Out, and the upcoming Soul movie, which will, unfortunately, be on Disney Plus this Christmas. The idea for Monsters, Inc. was conceived in a lunch in 1994, attended by John Lasseter, Pete Docter, Andrew Stanton, and Joe Ranft, during production of Toy Story. One of the ideas that came out of the brainstorming session was a film about monsters. Pete Docter began developing the movie in 1996 and wrote the story with Jill Colton, Jeff Pidgeon, and Ralph Eagleton. The screenplay was written by Andrew Stanton, who would later direct Finding Nemo and WALL-E, along with screenwriter Dan Gerson, who sadly passed away in 2016 at the age of 49 due to brain cancer. The characters went through many incarnations over the film's 5-year production process. During development, the technical team and animators found new ways to render fur and cloth realistically for the movie. The music was composed by Randy Newman, who composed the music for Pixar's previous 3 films, which were Toy Story, A Bug's Life, and Toy Story 2. Also, not only did Monsters, Inc. get a prequel in the form of Monsters University, but it also got re-released in 3D in 2012. It influenced a dark ride at Disney California Adventure, a level in Kingdom Hearts 3, which takes place after the movie, and an upcoming web series called Monsters at Work, which will be released on Disney Plus in early 2021. Now, what are my thoughts on the animation? Well, since this is a Pixar film, the animation is absolutely awesome, and I really love how Pete Docter and his team developed Monstropolis and the Monsters, Inc. factory. Plus, I think the monster characters are cleverly designed, even if some of them can look a bit cartoony. Plus, I think it's interesting that the monsters use screams from children in order to gain electricity for their city. But also, I like when they discover that laughter is a more powerful energy source than screams. Also, some parts of the story can be heart-pounding, funny, mature, epic, cute, and of course, tear-jerking. In fact, my favorite part of the movie is the chase scene in the door vault. Oh, bonus fact! The Harryhausen restaurant is named after the late stop-motion animator Ray Harryhausen, who worked on stop-motion creatures in movies like The Valley of Gwangi, Jason and the Argonauts, and Clash of the Titans. And now, let's move on to the characters and their voice actors. The main character and Monsters, Inc.'s top scarer, James P. Sullivan, aka Sully, is voiced by the lovable John Goodman. Best known from We're Back, A Dinosaur Story, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer the movie, The Emperor's New Groove, The Jungle Book 2, The Princess and the Frog, Speed Racer, and of course, Paranorman. To me, Sully would have to be my favorite character in this movie, not just because of John Goodman's acting, but because I think Sully is like a gentle giant and a nice father figure. Plus, the way he scares children with his roar is absolutely awesome. Sully's best friend, station runner, coach, and roommate Mike Wazowski is voiced by Billy Crystal, who has been in The Princess Bride, In Search of Dr. Seuss, and Hayao Miyazaki's Howl's Moving Castle. In my eyes, Mike is charming and generally the more organized of the two, but he's also prone to neurotics, and his ego sometimes does lead him astray. Plus, I think Mike has some of the funniest lines and moments in the entire movie. Next we come to a little girl whom Sully names Boo, voiced by Mary Gibbs. This little child seems unafraid of any monster in Monstropolis, except for her scarer, Randall Boggs. Also, Boo believes that Sully is like a large cat and refers to him as Kitty. In the film, one of Boo's drawings is covered with the name Mary, which could be her real name. By the way, I find Boo to be very sweet, curious, and innocent, and I think her laughter is really adorable. Also, I thought it was really awesome when Boo overcomes her fear and beats Randall up with a bat. Our next character is Celia May, voiced by Jennifer Tilly, who has been in Liar Liar, Home on the Range, 3 of the Child's Play movies, The Haunted Mansion, and Bartok the Magnificent. Celia works as Monsters Inc.'s receptionist, and she's Mike's girlfriend. In my eyes, Celia is normally a sweetheart, but she also has an explosive temper when she's angry. Thankfully, she does calm down almost immediately when Mike tells her what's going on. These are the CDA, which is short for the Child Detection Agency. They are voiced by Roger Bumpus, Bill Farmer, Pete Docter, Lee Unkrich, David Silverman, and Teddy Newton. Similar to a biohazard unit, their main job is to respond to any reported incidents of contact between monsters and children or their belongings, since it is believed that human objects are very toxic. They isolate and destroy any items accidentally brought into the monster world. Any monsters that come in contact with a human object are quickly and forcibly decontaminated, while having a neck cone applied afterwards. To me, their first appearance in the movie, courtesy of a 2319 incident done by George Sanderson, was kind of extreme when they shaved all of his fur off, and when they enveloped the Harryhausen restaurant in a quarantine-style force field. Next we have Sully's rival, Randall Boggs, voiced by Steve Buscemi, who has been in films like Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within, Armageddon, Igor, Spy Kids 2, the 2006 Charlotte's Web movie, Monster House, and the Hotel Transylvania movies, which next year will become a quadrilogy. So, after losing to Sully during the Scare Games in Monsters University, Randall now becomes a greedy, ruthless, sneaky, short-tempered, competitive, and overall evil and natured monster. And I think his chameleon-like abilities make him pretty creepy. Randall is also a selfish jerk who doesn't seem to show any morals to any monster, and he only cares about winning the scare record. Plus, Randall is also highly intelligent, and he has been busy throughout the movie due to the fact that he invented a machine to extract screams from children by force, and he even convinced Mr. WaterNews that his scream extractor is to benefit the company. However, even though Mike and Sully did foil Randall by banishing him to the human world, he does make a return in Kingdom Hearts 3 with help from the unversed and Sora's evil doppelganger, Vanitas. Next we come to the Monsters Inc. chairman and CEO, Henry J. WaterNews III, voiced by the late James Corburn, who has been in The Nutty Professor, The Muppet Movie, and Snow Dogs. WaterNews' job has been passed down through his family for 3 generations. He acts as a mentor to Sully, holding great faith in him as a scarer. In my eyes, WaterNews has a calm and fatherly personality and has always been on good terms with Mike and Sully. Plus, he has an affable and boisterous personality, especially when he gets excited. However, he is only driven to villainy out of desperation to keep his company afloat in the midst of the energy crisis. He becomes more villainous as this drive and desperation strip him away from his morals, and he is determined to not let anything stop what he thinks will be the best way for the company to keep going, not even taking into account looking for other energy sources. By the way, I think the scene where Mike exposes WaterNews by recording his confession in the simulation room was pretty clever. Next up is Roz, voiced by Pixar's Bob Peterson, whom I talked about in my blog of Up. Roz is a grouchy, slug-like monster with a raspy voice, who administers for Scare Floor F, where Sully, Mike, and Randall work. While she can be intimidating, she's also an interesting character, because at the end of the movie, it is revealed that Roz is agent number 1 of the CDA, and she has been working undercover at Monsters Inc. for 2.5 years to investigate the abuse of closet doors. Finally, we come to the Yeti, aka the Abominable Snowman, voiced by Pixar's good luck charm, John Ratzenberger. This guy is a furry white monster who used to work in the mailroom until he was banished to the Himalayas sometime between this movie and Monsters University. To me, this guy is friendly and a pretty hospitable guy, especially when he offers Mike and Sully snow cones. Other voice actors in the film include Frank Oz as Randall's assistant Jeff Fungus, Dan Gerson as the goofy janitors Needleman and Smitty, Steve Susskind as the Scare Floor manager Jerry Slugworth, Bonnie Hunt as the Scare trainer Miss Flint, Jeff Pigeon as Thaddeus Flambile, and Samuel Lord Black as George Sanderson. And now, let's move on to my final words. Overall, Monsters Inc. is a fun Pixar film and a classic movie to watch for the whole family. The animation by Pixar is outstanding, the story is well put, the characters from Mike, Sully, and Boo are memorable, as well as some of the other monster characters. The voice acting is spectacular, and I think Pete Docter did great, with this movie being the very first film he directed for Pixar. Also, after watching this movie again, I'm getting deeply excited to watch Monsters at Work on Disney Plus next year, and I'm also glad that Monsters Inc. is in the business of making children laugh instead of scaring them. So, my rating for this movie will be a 91% out of 100. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to join me next time as we look at the 4th and final movie in the American Tail franchise, Mustang Power.